cyber war?
In full effect.
Oh, okay. Give us more on full effects.
This has kind of been my area of practice for about a decade. A lot of things that are happening in the background. They're very state-sponsored. It's a new form of warfare. I mean, it's the Cold War 2.0. It's killing without touching.
I got out in the real world and I got my ass kicked real fast. And I was like, I went to this boxing gym in New Haven I had no business going to. First time they actually put me in the ring to spar. I'm a bad boxer, man, because I got big paws, right? But I'm just a standing still target, and I got hit so hard that with a hook that my headgear spun clear around.
Oh.
No one stopped you. No one saved you.
The bell saved me.
I believe I'm the only sibling that doesn't have a PhD, an academic PhD. I do have a PhD, but I'll tell you about that later.
I think you're talking about the same one I'm thinking of.
All right, welcome back to the Side by Side podcast with your host, Brandon.
And I'm Dimari.
We are here to engage in meaningful conversations to create unity through diversity by enlightening and inspiring minds one question at a time. We do that by bringing on two strangers each week to show we have a lot more in common than meets the eye. Today, we've got two guests with us. We've got Mo and David. Say what's up, fellas.
Hey, what's going on?
So, Dimari, we always started off with a little word association. We were just chatting about my Aztec death whistle here. Little fun little guy right here. We were just chatting about it, so I just want to blow it for the audience real quick, if you guys don't mind. Gotta start it off right, you know?
Which made me realize that Tux is not here, because Tux would be going nuts.
Yeah, normally it sets my dog on fire, dude.
Where's Tux? I'm sure he loves it.
He's out with the mom. Out with mama.
Got it. Living that dog life.
Yes, sir.
So, man, I'm excited, man. We got David Moldover and Mo Shami. This is good stuff, bro. It's a good day. This is one I've been looking forward to. So I guess, David, we're going to kick it right off in the hot seat, man.
All right.
Going to give you 5 words, bro. I did really good last week. For the first time I was in the hot seat and I had to do the 5 words. I'm talking milliseconds. I had another word coming out. So if you guys can beat me, you will be the best there is at this point. So we'll start with this one. Taxis.
New York.
Pottery.
Me.
Vermont.
Jenny, my wife. These are too tailored.
These are too tailored. I got you. Chuck Schumer.
No comment.
With the deep breath. That's good, bro. Marriage.
Good stuff.
Good stuff. Love that, bro. That's good.
You would say that.
That's good, man. I mean, he's just right. He's got to show his wife. She's just like, wait, what did you say? He's been a good boy.
Gotta
smart.
No
gotta
regrets.
shout the wife out.
No regrets. No, this is good, man.
All right, Mr. Mo.
Hold on, give me 1 second though. Come on, bro. Why no comment for Chucky?
Oh yeah.
I don't know if my opinions are informed enough to get too into, but let's see. Those I've never seen spectacles just worn so far down on a nose before.
Like, not even my nose is Jewish enough to wear spectacles that far down.
It's almost as if he has like a permanent fixture installed to just keep them there.
They rest there, yeah. But that's the look that I hope to be able to give someday.
The chuggy. We'll just call that the chuggy. I had a teacher like that in I think it was second grade. She wore her glasses all the way down there, and they like covered her nostrils, so she would breathe really hard. Like
everybody's had a teacher like that, man.
She was annoying.
For sure. I had a teacher named Mrs. Connor who wore glasses that sometimes would be like down a little farther, and she would like look at us through them. Or through the top, or like through the bottom.
Yep.
And I always got lunch detention in her class for like pencil tapping and making beats on the desk. Me and this guy George Lapsley, who was like one of the other students that used to do that. And she would make us come to lunch detention and tap for the whole lunch detention. And you would think it would be like, oh, this is a joke. But then you get to lunch detention, and she's like, no, you better not stop tapping. And you're like, I'm all out of beats, because everybody always had that one same beat they did.
Yeah.
And little did you know, she was honing you. She was training you. That's just.
She actually is. Yeah.
Yeah, that's just Rocky style.
You got to give her a shout out at the Grammys. No, that's not. I just don't like it. It's just condescending. Like, why are you looking down on me like that? And I don't like it. I definitely want to get more into Chuck though, but I like what you said, which is you don't know why. I mean, you're not informed enough to make an opinion, but everyone's informed enough to have an opinion on the
I have an
side.
opinion. I don't know if I'm ready to argue it right this moment.
Okay.
Respect.
Yeah, we might need a little sippy first.
Yeah, exactly.
All right, Mr. Mo, you
Let's
ready?
go. Yes, sir.
Let's go. All right. UFC.
Habib Nurmagomedov.
I love it. Barbecue.
Fun time.
Vladimir Putin.
Ruthless leader.
Travel.
Global cultures.
Cyber war.
Damn.
In full effect.
Oh, okay.
We are moving.
Okay.
We are moving.
Give us more on full effects.
Oh, I'll tell you. I mean, this has kind of been my area of practice for about a decade. A lot of things that are happening in the background. They're very state-sponsored. It's the new form of warfare. I mean, it's the Cold War 2.0. It's killing without touching. Without lift. Well, actually, you're lifting a finger because you're sending a lot of data. There's a lot of work done to really penetrate systems and really breach organizations, whether it is to do some recognizance and some information gathering, or whether it's to sabotage a nation or a program through criminal means.
Love that. I love that analysis. That's great. I actually love that you kind of expound on the topic, because this is a topic I really was like opened my eyes to when I watched a documentary about, I think it was probably about 6 to 8 years now that this documentary came out, but it was called 0 Days. Did you ever see that?
Of course.
Great documentary, and it's all about the Stuxnet virus that was created. That's basically, kind of what you're alluding to, stuff like that. And just an amazing documentary. Just kind of goes in depth and really talks about dimensions of warfare and how this, like you said, is like the new dimension of warfare. And another person who's kind of broke it down from time to time on dimensions of warfare is Dan Carlin on the Hardcore History podcast. So good. But yeah, I love that you you've got some expertise and some knowledge. Maybe we can open that topic up when we get to your background and upbringing.
Yeah, maybe you can give us some CVV so we can expand our studio.
Hey, I'll be happy to talk about it.
Yeah, offline, not on the phones, never on the phones.
Phones are always listening. That's a fact.
That's a fact.
All right, so Mo, you did a nice little segue for us there. So we'll throw it over to David, and then we'll come back to you. But David, if you could just give us a little, start us off with your background, but really just start with your upbringing, your childhood, your family structure, and kind of what you're doing now in life and career and all that good stuff.
Yeah, sure. Well, I guess I grew up in New Jersey, northern New Jersey, right outside of New York City. And that was a pretty, conventional upbringing. Suburbs. Where I'm from, it's a big Jewish and Asian population in northern New Jersey. Which I took for granted growing up, and as I've gone out into the world, realized how kind of unique of a place that is. But no, it was a nice town. Mom and dad. My dad was just retired, a doctor in the city. Middle class, working class doctor. Hardest worker I've ever met. Get my ethics from him. My mom was a nurse, a school nurse, and I'm the youngest of four by a long shot. Because I was a happy little accident when they thought they'd done. I came along, so I got three older siblings, who are all much better educated than I am. They're all various doctorates and master's degrees and whatnot. They're all real smart. And yeah, that was pretty much pretty standard upbringing. Right now, I live in Newburgh, New York, in the Hudson Valley with my wife Jenny. We're pregnant and expecting a little girl in January, our first little girl, and we're living the dream up here. I'm a potter by trade, by profession. We own the Newburgh Pottery, which is community ceramic studio. We teach classes and have memberships, and then I do design and production work for businesses and homes, designers. And kind of the decade before we moved up here, I was in the city working in that field and learning that trade. And that's where I met Dimari. But it was kind of an unconventional path, a lot of twists and turns. I never knew what I wanted to be growing up. I initially went to school for criminal justice. I had been an EMT in my town when I was younger. I rode on the ambulance, and so I worked with a lot of the cops in the town. And I had it in my head that was the path I was going to take, kind of first responder path. But a lot of reasons my life steered away from that direction. For political reasons, personal reasons, all sorts of reasons. I think, in short, I think we got a black and white system for a very gray world. And, it's something I eventually had to take a step back and say, is that a system that I want to devote my life to being caught up in and being a cog in, whether you agree with it or not. It's a really heavy life. And so I transferred around. I dropped out of school. I started taking community college classes and a lot of English and history classes, and got really into kind of American history and literature. And I started going back to school for that, thinking that maybe I'd be a teacher or something like that. And I took a pottery class my last semester of college, and that was that. It was kind of that moment that you hear. You hear a lot of athletes describe the moment, like the first time that someone threw them that ball or they stepped on that court, that kind of overwhelming feeling. You hear that from a lot of musicians the first time they saw that instrument. They just had to play it, or they heard that instrument. And, it's just kind of one of those kind of feelings you can't ignore, that this is something you're supposed to be doing. And I was really lucky to, New York's a really rough place to be a artist starting out, or a craft or a creative person. It's but at the same time, as rough as a city it is, it's also a city full of opportunity and full of inspiration and full of education, if you know where to look and you know how to take advantage of it. And I got opportunities that I don't think I would have gotten any place else, and I was able to really learn the trade and support myself while I did it. And it's the kind of world where there's no set path. If you're going to be a doctor, you go to med school, then you go to your residency, and then there's steps you go through, and then one day you're a doctor. And same with teachers, same with lawyers, same with a lot of professions. You kind of, there's a very clear accepted path that you have to go through to get to be able to call yourself that. But in the creative world, it's just kind of the Wild West, so you're ready when you feel you're ready, or when you can convince people you're ready. And so it took me about 10 years or so to really feel confident with my skills and my knowledge to open up my own business and start teaching what I'd learned and sharing it, offering a place where I was really confident enough that I could do a good job at that.
Awesome.
But yeah, that's kind of my story. I just, I got a lot of people who looked out for me, and I was in the right place at the right time a lot, that seemed to be, or, I was just given opportunities that for whatever reason I was able to take advantage of. And
one thing I know about you is you definitely take advantage of opportunities, but you also know how to create opportunities, and you are very much a student of the craft. It was something that I've always just admired, just watching you from a pottery standpoint. And he's like secretly like a business guy. Like he tries to pretend like he goes that like, I'm going to pretend like I don't know what I'm doing thing, so you think I'm stupid, but it turns out like I got this whole thing figured out already. So really enjoy watching that. But one thing I do know is because I thought you were ready to start your business like many years before you even started it, but then you finally did do it, and I was really happy about that. And then COVID happened, bro. Walk us through that. What was that like?
That was a shakeup. Well, I should also mention I got a secret weapon, and that's my wife, Jenny. And she's my business partner also. We met in that first pottery class I ever took. And she, we came up with the idea of opening up a studio one day. That kind of dream was born just in a bar, talking about, my love for this thing that I had found, and how I could build a life out of that, and how that could turn into, because there's like passion, but then at the end of the day, business is business. You got to support yourself. And if you're lucky enough to be able to figure out a way to do it, doing something you love, that's great. But, and there's a lot of ways you can make a living in the arts, and, this dream was kind of born with her, on a date, a long time ago. And she's been by my side the whole time. And, she was an understanding person when I'd be home at 4 a.m, 5 a.m from the studio, someone who's okay with you coming home that late, regularly. We went 50-50 in on this business together. So financially, you need finances to open up a business. And I have a partner who was able to meet me halfway there. And there's a lot of back-end business stuff that goes into any business, no matter what you're doing. There's a lot of behind-the-scenes work that I had help with from her. So, I got a secret weapon, That's I got that advantage that a lot of small businesses don't have.
Yeah, I remember like talking to you once. And you were like talking about the Chamber of Commerce, and I was like, I never thought I would hear those words come from your mouth. What are you talking about, Chamber of Commerce?
Yeah, I mean,
David?
end of
But
the
no, so
day,
you
business
opened
is
it, but then
business. Yeah, money, business
yeah,
is
but
business.
how'd you weather the storm with the pandemic and stuff? Because we were
Yeah.
supposed to come up there
Yeah.
just for the listeners.
Yeah.
Like, I opened a studio. I'm super pumped. It's like up. It's like maybe like an hour north or something in Hudson Valley. So it's something you got to plan around.
Yeah.
But I'm like, okay, we'll come up. We'll hang out for the weekend. We'll drink. We'll make a whole thing out of it. And I'll bring a bunch of people with me along the way.
Yeah.
And then something happened the first time where we couldn't do it. I don't remember what it was. Oh, I think I know. It was a personal family issue with David.
Yeah.
And then we couldn't do it. And then the next thing it was like COVID.
Yeah.
And I'm like, bro, what is going? And then I ended up moving, so I never even got a chance to see this new studio.
Yeah.
So, but you came out on the other side. So
We did.
Walk us through that, man.
Yeah, scary as hell. We had just bought a house about 6 months before that also. So we got it was kind of a real scary time for a second. Yeah, we were completely closed for about 6 months. Just no income through the business. But bills didn't stop. So we just kind of hemorrhaged cash for.
And you had new bills. You had a whole new house, so you're like cash strapped. You just spent a bunch of money on.
I got a partner. Jenny's job was Jenny's got a whole nother career outside of the studio, and she was able to go remotely, so we didn't lose the house. But no, it was scary. It was. But this is the thing. We were still a new business, and. We had that going for us because when you're a new business, you're very cautious if you're smart and you save. And every dollar we were getting after bills were getting paid, we were saving. We were forming a nest egg because when you're a new business, anything can happen at any time and you don't have the foundation there to catch yourself. So you have to build a nest egg pretty quickly, just like in those just in case scenarios, like I'm a self-employed now. So if I break my arm, I'm out, and I have to be ready for that and to be able to weather that, so there's it's life has new risks, to it. So,
I don't know if you know about this little thing called disability insurance.
I know.
We can talk about it offline.
But you know what I mean. You know what I mean. You're just, you have to be ready for anything when you don't have the safety net of corporate job or traditional job or something like that.
And even disability insurance. Is not going to pick up 100% of your income.
Exactly.
It's going to cover a portion of
60
it.
to 70.
And if you're having a high overhead, you're screwed.
Yeah. So we were really lucky that we're in our business. We opened our business in an area that we didn't really have anything like what we were doing, and there was a high demand for it. And we did form, a client, a customer base pretty quickly. And but yeah, we were able to save a lot just aggressively in the beginning, just because we were a new business, and we didn't expect something like this to happen. But we were kind of ready for something to happen because that's where our head was at. You've put everything you got into something. It's scary if you can lose it just as quickly. So we were always had that kind of right from the beginning. Let's start we're not going to start spending yet. We're going to build a nest egg, get comfortable so that we feel like we're secure. And then this happened. So we didn't expect something this big, and but we were, so we were able to weather those 6 months. And then when we reopened in stages, and we were able to kind of tread water and keep afloat. But it was a little while longer until we started turning up a real profit again, But now we just finished an expansion. So we just added about 1,000 square feet to the studio and second classroom, and we're teaching more and we're hiring more, and so we're the momentum's gaining again, and we're coming back and we're growing again. So it feels good to be climbing again and not just maintaining,
Right. Yeah.
Yeah. I think something you touched on that is definitely sticking out to me that I have experienced running, small business, running, large businesses is if you're going to start a business as a small business owner, make sure that you go into it with, basically throw away operating capital, because you need that in order to weather tough times in the beginning,
Exactly.
and if something like COVID happens or whatever, and you're not growing sales as fast as you thought you would, you're going to need that money for payroll, for
100%.
utilities, etc. And I think a lot of business owners they don't know that when they go into it, and they think we're just gonna we're gonna
100%.
bootstrap, but having that operating capital just throw away to spend on
Which,
stuff.
This isn't making any sense because I saw the guy on Instagram. He said if I just start an LLC, I'll be rich. You're telling me, wait, you're saying I need to actually have money?
Yeah.
No, that's crazy.
Yeah.
And especially
so to
when
shift gears, thanks for that, David.
Sure.
Yeah. No, yeah, we'll definitely we'll tap back into that, but I want to give Mo some time here to get us caught up to speed on everything. Mo,
I'm going to have to break the golden rule and go grab a charger because my computer. I didn't expect to do this on my phone. And
you're good.
So
it's okay.
I'm going to have to get up.
Yeah.
I'm so sorry. I'll be right back.
No problem.
All right.
So Mo, if you could just walk us through your upbringing, your family structure, that whole good jazz, and then take us to what you're doing nowadays.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you for giving me this platform. I was actually born overseas. I was born in Kuwait. I come from a Palestinian family. My family weathered several wars, dating back to 1948, when my family and all of my Palestinian people lost their land after the invasion of the Israeli troops, and they actually fled far east to the west of the bank, but it's east. And up until 63 or 64, my dad landed a job in Kuwait, and he worked for the Ministry of Agriculture, and he was the Director General for the whole ministry. My mom was a kindergarten teacher. They grew their family in Kuwait. I'm the youngest of five, and similar to David's story, the age gap between me and all of my siblings are over 10 years. So I feel like I share the sentiment that maybe this was unplanned, but nevertheless, here I am, gang, So we they made the best out of it. And then during the Gulf War, we actually had to flee again by land. We drove through Baghdad and Basra to get to Jordan, and then that's when we were actually evacuated by the U.S. Embassy to the U.S. And our first landing spot was actually Memphis. So I lived in Memphis for about a year or so, and then we made our way to California. I grew up in the San Joaquin Valley, which is in the central part of California. Lived in a small countryside town, 3,000 people population, one street light, a bunch of canals. It was a D4 school, but we were, it was, you're either in sports and academics, or you're pretty much in the streets doing bad stuff. So I took the high road, obviously. So I was a scholar athlete.
You're like, I just came from warfare. I don't need to go back into it.
Yeah, you know what I mean? I mean, it was not a hard decision to make, to be honest, but it was cool. It was a small town, but very, very successful athletic programs, state champs for many years. And that was basically where I really fell in love with wrestling. And I competed on, 4 years of varsity. Last year, my high school year, I placed fifth in state. And when I went to college, I actually had also a change of heart. I was going to medical school. I am a part of also a family of doctors and engineers, and I believe I'm the only sibling that doesn't have a PhD. At least not an academic PhD. I do have a PhD, but I'll tell you about that later.
I think you're talking about the same one I'm thinking
of. And then I moved to the Bay Area, and that's where, Silicon Valley, that's where it all started, the startup boom. And, it was something like, okay, I needed to switch into something that was modern, something that had a future. And I switched from pre-med to computer science engineering, and I got my undergrad from San Jose State. And then shortly after that, I left California and I went where I got my first job overseas. And then I've been traveling for the last 10, 15 years after that, all over the Middle East, Europe, and Africa, working in the technology and telecom sector, focusing on system integration and program management, a lot of the tech stuff. Currently, I am a technical account manager for a cybersecurity SaaS company. I manage about a 25 enterprise level customers, and my role is both a technical role and a sales role. So I am a security architect. Basically, my mission is to provide best of breed solutions for my customers, and also I'm responsible for upselling, cross-selling, renewals, and expansions for these clients. Aside from my day job, I'm also pretty passionate about sports, and I got pretty deep into fitness, where I'm a certified personal trainer. I do offer online training programs, and I do dabble into fitness modeling as well. So that, in a gist, is what my background is about.
Dude,
love it.
Dude, so much
Yeah,
right there, bro.
yeah.
I mean, from the jump, though, like, so you're in Kuwait, move around, bounce around, all of these wars are following your family, all right? So it's a lot that I want to know about that. But first, I'm just curious. Okay, so you guys, I think you said you went to Jordan, and then from Jordan got connected with the U.S. Embassy, and then brought you to the States. Like, how did that even happen? What is that? How does something like that happen? Was your dad like politically connected? Was he like working for the government or something?
Not quite. We were actually U.S. citizens. My parents got it through my older brother, who traveled for his college education, and then he settled down. He married. He got a citizenship, and he passed it on to my parents. And this is way
I didn't
back,
even know that was a thing.
yeah. So we're talking about early '80s.
Wow. Right, because people don't know that Mo is actually 76 years old.
in dog years.
He's unlocked the secrets.
He's
of
unlike,
aging.
yeah, if you guys really want to
Yeah.
get into the fitness stuff, call Mo. He's 79 years old, people. This is insane.
So, Mo, I know like one of the things that we definitely have bonded and how I met you and what Dimari and I hang out about is, UFC, MMA. So I know you had talked a little bit about wrestling in that part of your life before we get into the geopolitical stuff. Love to just get some levity on the fitness side of you. So, can you just talk a little bit about, your love for MMA and for all that good stuff and sports and the athletic kind of world that you're involved in?
And stop
Yeah,
knocking
absolutely.
people out.
I mean, this has been a passion ever since I can walk. Actually, my dad put me in my first judo class at the age of 4, and so I've actually been in martial arts for close to 40 years. And, it was a way to discipline me because apparently I am the black sheep of the family, and I got a lot of energy, so they wanted to channel it in a very productive way. So I started off actually in judo, and I did that for about 9 years, and then when we moved to California, there wasn't a good judo spot because it was just a a small town. So, it is a grappling form of martial arts. So making that transition into wrestling was seamless. And then when I went to the Bay Area, that's when I fell in love with mixed martial arts because that's where I got to see Strike Force, and I got to see a lot of the people that eventually made it to the UFC. I got to see the Gracies perform live. I trained with a lot of uh, old UFC champs in San Jose. They're one of the biggest clubs, well known, is called AKA American Kickboxing
Yeah.
Association, and so I lived a few
Shout
blocks
out.
away from that. So I would go there and kind of spar and do drills, but that's where I really fell in love with this whole mixed martial arts idea because it's not about one form, but it's just all forms. And I haven't missed a UFC event ever since UFC one. So it's been an obsession. And the way things are kind of now uh, progressing, it's with the more showmanship and more. I feel like a WWE feel within UFC with a lot of these stories and media spinning things off and pitting fighters against each other. And you have Uncle Dana with his very interesting personality and mindset. um, I still feel that UFC they're still on the rise, and there's an abundance of skilled talent out there. And with the introduction of Dana White's Contender Series, that also is kind of putting more of a spotlight on the sport itself. And I do believe that this sport is gonna at one point gonna surpass boxing.
So
Yeah.
who's a better businessman, Vince McMahon or Dana White?
I think what Vince is more he's the Godfather. He's the one who
Yeah.
started all of this. He's the one who he
Hmm.
he 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 brought entertainment to the masses. He's a sharp businessman, but as you also know, he's also an athlete. So he kind of used that sport to make money. And I think Dana is ripping a lot of pages out of his book, but Dana is also
Hmm.
expanding because times have changed, and people, it's becoming more of a challenge to keep people engaged. And so they're coming
Right.
up with all these ideas and all these plots and all these storylines to keep people tuning in, keeping people interested. um, and I believe that he's done a really good job of taking that sport and scaling it out as you see today.
Yeah. Yeah, and at the same time, the level of skill, competition, athleticism is just like ascending at a seems like exponential pace. You think about the UFC fighters that started the UFC to compare to the champs now, and it's like, it's just light years ahead and advanced in every way on the forms, the martial art forms, the competitiveness, like how good these guys are. And I definitely share the obsession as well. I'm not as my background. I have never like practiced martial arts like you have, but the spiritual side of it, the yoga and meditation have been kind of like my practice, my martial arts, if you will, throughout my entire life. And I think I'm drawn to the fighters that have that element the spiritual side and that pursuit of like spiritual path interwoven into their sport and their martial art pursuit. So it's so cool to see, and I love that you're just such a wealth of knowledge when we get together and we chat about this stuff.
Wait, David, do you know what the hell we're talking about?
I do.
Okay.
I do. Believe it or not, I do. And I think it's pretty cool to see the evolution, like the birth of any sport, right? Because like sports take a long time to get ingrained into a culture.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? So the fact that we've kind of seen the birth of a sport that's now, grown into such a phenomenon, you're going to see, development of fighters and all that because the sport's gaining traction. But it's pretty cool to like see like a culture develop a new sport.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And but you'll see the same thing with like anything, like Ninja Warrior.
Yeah.
Like that's taken off. So now you got people training in like gyms specifically set up for it. And now the stuff that they're doing now is like mind blowing. Like who thought of that obstacle?
Yeah.
Right.
It's like far past where they started, So like just when anything gains traction like that, the level of competition is just gonna skyrocket.
And you know what's
once
crazy
people start,
is a lot of this stuff is actually like probably like 30 years old at this point, right? But what I realized when you just said that, it made me realize that basically we were like the first generation of kids that watched it, and now we're the adults. Mm-hmm. And so we're still hooked on it.
Imagine being like the first person to watch a baseball game.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
You know what I mean? And then to see the kind of hold that has on society now.
Yeah.
For a first person to see a American football game. Like, you know, like...
That's crazy. So what's up with...
Just look at the monsters who are on the field now. Like, it's insane. Like,
what's up with Bellator, man? Like, I didn't know about this, and then Mo mentioned it to me, and I'm feeling like, bro, they got some sluggers over there, bro. Like, why is Bellator not as popular as UFC? What am I missing, guys?
They're kind of in that stage in that... It's management. It's pure management. I mean, that's why you have to, tip your hat off to Dana, really for doing what they needed to do, to really take that leadership position. The way they really went through several challenges, especially during, when COVID first hit. And where they brought back the sport, it was one of the first sports to be back on live, or at least to be broadcasted. I mean, he took the sport overseas. I mean, there was a lot of things that he has done.
They got the island, right?
Yeah.
That was
Yeah. They're in Dubai,
the
right?
The idea with Bellator is they definitely have great fighters, and they're making a lot of money, but they're not really utilizing different kind of techniques to scale out as well and as efficient and as fast as the UFC. I mean, you think that, and we are somehow self-centered. We really think that everything revolves around us in the U.S. But another really big organization who can actually compete with UFC, and if you take a look at their market capital and look their valuation in the market, one fighting championship.
I was about to say that.
It is huge, and it actually has a different spin to it.
One FC.
One FC.
Mm-hmm.
Was that right?
It's based in Indonesia, like the Indo-Pacific realm. So it's like
they got straight fighters over there, bro.
Yeah, they bring in not only MMA, they do Muay Thai, they do like a lot of other promotions as well. And fighters are getting paid out there too. So
and I think what you touched on too is the importance of stars, right? Like the stars sell the thing, and what the UFC has is it has tons and tons of stars and star potential, and that's what Dana's done such a good job. But I think the ONE FC even kind of beat Bellator to the point of kind of like building up stars, and they kind of have created a niche for themselves, being based in Asia and the Pacific Rim and that kind of part of the world. So they draw on that audience and the Muay Thai culture and all of that. But their first big signing was Demetrius Johnson.
Mm-hmm.
Arguably maybe the GOAT of all weight classes ever, and he's now their star and their champion, and they're building even more stars around him, and some of the guys that he's fought like Rod Tang and stuff are come ups that are huge stars over there. So you're right. I mean, like, the star makes the sport popular and brings the money, and the competitive nature will come too. Just
the stars make everything, though, like not just sports, but I mean, it's like, end of the day, business is business. So they're going back to their the marketing department is the most important department of those organizations, not the fighters. It's how those fighters are presented and painted in the story that they're telling. But end of the day, marketing across the board, no matter what you're selling, that's what's driving the success.
Right. Yeah. And I feel like that's the part that I kind of liked about UFC a little bit more when I look at people like Adesanya, because it's to me now, not so much, maybe to your guys' point, Dana's making some changes into what David just said. There's marketing and stuff, but I just like that just humility aspect of it. But humility doesn't sell tickets. You got to get on Instagram and you got to say, Conor McGregor's got to come over with his team and beat up your tour bus and all of that stuff, because that's what the people want to see. But I just think it's like, I don't know, we should just leave that in WWE.
Yeah. And so I want to segue actually into our allegedly question, because I think this is kind of right on topic with what we're going with. So allegedly. So
allegedly.
I don't know if you guys are big. Are you guys big NFL fans, football fans? Do you follow the NFL?
Yes.
No?
I don't do sports.
Yes. And
with a body like that, David, you sure, bro? I was like, this dude definitely is into sports. He's definitely at least a fight. No, you boxed for a second, though, didn't you, David?
You want to know my boxing story?
Yes.
I got out in the real world and I got my ass kicked real fast. And I was like, I gotta learn how to fight better. So I went to this boxing gym in New Haven, like, that I had no business going to. Real. Yeah. First time they actually put me in the ring to spar. I'm a bad boxer, man, because I got big paws, right? But I cannot move. It's the same reason I'm not a good dancer. I can't move my feet and my arms at the same time. So I'm just a standing still target, and I got hit so hard that with a hook that my headgear spun clear around.
Oh.
I was blind. I just got wailed on.
And no one stopped you? No one saved you?
Huh?
Did anyone save you, or you just got wailed on for a minute?
The bell saved me.
Then he walked right out the gym.
I can't move, man. I can't. It's like this, like that. I just can't move my arms and my feet at the same time. So if you stand still, you're done. But if you're moving, you win.
Well, I mean, maybe the doctor side of the family thing, you could weigh in on this topic, but I'm going to ask a question anyway, because it's been the topic of on everybody's minds today and this week. So on Sunday during the NFL game, Bills versus Dolphins, Tua, the quarterback from Miami, he hit his head on the turf, came up, was kind of wobbly, like he just got knocked out, and went into the locker room. The independent doctor or whatever, like, cleared him, said he didn't have concussion, that it was a back injury, went right back on the field, finished the game. 4 days later, they play Thursday night, and they're playing Cincinnati, and Tua gets ragdoll, sacked, thrown to the ground by nose tackle on the Bengals, and he was so concussed that his hands were clenching up on his chest like this, like he was having like almost like seizure, like, and it was pretty hard to watch, pretty messed up, and the call the outrage and the backlash from both fans, doctors, pundits, everybody is just like, how can they let this happen? And so, allegedly he was cleared to play and he was evaluated by the independent doctor. They went through the concussion protocol at halftime. But I mean, what do you guys think? Do you think that players should be allowed to go back on the field after a concussion, or should there be even more strict? Because talking about MMA, what I do like about MMA is, especially in like the UFC, right? If a guy gets KO'd, he's on a mandatory no fight clause for about 8 weeks or something like that, right, Mo? It's like 8 weeks or 12 weeks or something like that, where they can't
it's even
take a
longer
fight.
than that. It depends on the kind of injuries that they have sustained during the fight. But I mean, it's very common that you take 6 months off of mandatory no fighting. I mean,
Right,
it's quite common.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So it's way longer than what I was thinking.
So David, is this just like business as usual? Where like, hey man, we're paying you all this money, get back out there, earn that paycheck, boy? Or was this guy actually? Do you think he was actually clear to go?
I mean, that's what they're treating it like, right? But I mean, you see it not just in sports, but anywhere, right? Like the corporation making the money is not going to do the right thing when the money's at stake.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? So, I mean, of course that should be illegal. That he should be pulled. He should go get full CAT scans and everything, stuff that they can't do that stuff in the locker room. Some sports doctor in the locker room can't assess that level of an injury, right? That guy, after an injury like that, you gotta go to the hospital, fucking on a longboard to make sure that your spine's okay. And they don't let you move your head until they assess your spine.
Right.
That's like what happens when you get in a motorcycle accident. They don't even you get in a motorcycle accident, they won't even take your helmet off. A doctor has to take your helmet off after you're scanned completely to make sure that your neck's not broken and that you're not going to get, ruined by that kind of movement of taking a helmet off. So, yeah, I mean, it's just money. It's just money calling those shots, But of course, that guy should have been taken to a emergency room right away, assessed by doctors in a hospital with the equipment that they needed, and shouldn't have been cleared no matter how much. I mean, they're getting paid a lot of money, but they all know what the risk is, and they know that person could get taken out of the game at any second.
Yeah,
those
totally.
So yeah, I mean, it's disgusting. But you also got companies like Skittles, who are like getting like sued because they've been knowingly poisoning people for the past decade because they're using.
Whoa, tell us more.
Oh, you didn't see this?
I didn't see this.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, they've been knowingly poisoning everyone because titanium dioxide. That I believe it was titanium dioxide is in Skittles, and we've known that's toxic for a long time.
Oh,
and
man,
they were told
don't tell me that.
years ago they have to change their recipe because they have a toxic ingredient. Well, it's fucking expensive to change your recipes and to change manufacturing of something, and so they still do it. So any company, once there's that kind of money on the line, you can't expect them to make the ethical choices, right? I mean, that's just the reality of the world.
What do you say to that, Mo? Mo, what's your response to that, man?
I think I'm in line with Mike. It's
with David.
With David. I think that it is definitely sad to see.
I'm Mike.
That, it's always about the money. It's always
about the money.
And so, in combat sports, assessing an injury, a visible injury, is easy. But if you're assessing an invisible injury, if it's related to nerves, if it's related to something that you need more diagnostics, you need to be in a hospital with proper medical devices and tools to assess. In these kind of situations, these games are on. It's live. You have all these fans, and so they just want to make sure that they have continuity. And you know, that and unfortunately, in most cases, that supersedes the individual's best interest. And so life goes
And
on
these guys
until
are
it doesn't. So,
yeah. And these guys are getting paid millions of dollars. So I mean, they know that there's a high risk factor involved to be receiving that kind of paycheck. That's an ungodly amount of money for playing a game.
It is, but the NFL paychecks are completely different. They're like the worst in all of the sports. It's like basically they get paid every week, so they actually have to complete the game to get the check. And then when you see these like crazy amounts of money that they're gonna make, it's not really true. That just means if they hit like every single metric that is in their contract, like, oh, you're gonna get 1,000 yards rushing, you're gonna get 500-yard yak, right? You're gonna get this many receptions, blah 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 blah, and then you get paid every week. Then there's more money that you can make for every week in the playoffs. And then if you get all the way to the Super Bowl. So if you do every single thing in there, then you'll get all of it. Yeah, exactly.
Except for the
bonus.
The 1%, the stars who have guaranteed contracts. Those are and those are just like reserved for your Patrick Mahomes, your Aaron Rodgers, guys who are the stars.
It's still not such a bad hustle for them, though. I mean, it's still...
you got 3 or 4 years. I mean, you've probably been doing it 20 years without making any money. And then you finally maybe got 3 or 4 years to maybe get some money. And then wham, you get hit. And you're in the back and you're like rocked. And you're like, I want to go back out there. Can I go back out there? Doctor's like, you damn right you're going back out there, motherfucker, because they're going to fire me. So you're going back out there.
Someone like you, so they know what to do with those paychecks while they're still rolling in. And,
Well, that's why that movie, Any Given Sunday, is like one of the best sports movies ever made, because it really just shows how ruthless it is. Because they're just like shooting the guys with all kinds of drugs in the back, and like, get the fuck back out there.
Get out there. It's disgusting, man. I'm like you, David. I don't really watch too much of it, but sometimes when I just want to fit in and be American, I go and try to watch it.
Well, it's all I mean, at the end of the day, it's all just for like it's all our fault, right? Because we're the ones that are just like,
it is, right?
I need more.
Exactly.
Yo, literally, our intern is playing a football game on his phone right now, and he's going like this.
No, it's insane, man. So I do want to shift gears a little bit because this is super interesting, and you were just talking about something. David stepped away for a second, but you're telling us about your upbringing, Mo, and just your Palestinian history. And I know David is Jewish, right? And love both sides. And so I think something that me and you talked about, Mo, and I know David, we've had like a lot of deep conversations over the years as well. But something that me and Mo discussed, I think it was like the first day I ever met you, and then we just started chatting. And the topic of this essay that I read in college by Edward Said called "Displaced Persons." I've read it, and it just like really introduced me to things that I didn't know, right? Because I'm Black, growing up in America, that's pretty much like the only plight that I've ever heard of, right? And then I started to see that there's a lot of people suffering all over the world, right? And that was one of the first things that was like an eye opener for me. And I think I was 18 when I read that. And a lot of people don't know about it. They don't know about, maybe some people have an opinion of what's going on in this particular region of the world. But as a person who's lived there, and as a person, I know, David, you have definitely visited for your right of what is it called when you go back before 27?
Birthright. Yeah.
Birthright, right? So, and I know that this is something that's important to you. I would like to start with you, Mo. Just give us like your perspective of what's going on in that region between Israelis and Palestinians, and what you think could be done to fix it. And then I'd like to hear the same from David.
Yeah, I mean, thank you for giving us this opportunity to really discuss this very sensitive topic. But just to kind of level set before, when you introduced me as being Palestinian and David as being Jewish, well, this is where the biggest misconception is. Palestine is a nation, is a state. Palestine, previous to 1948, had a homogenous population of Muslims, Christians, and Jewish folks. All of them were called Palestinian. And so after 1948, when the establishment of the State of Israel, this is when things became a little different, and there was a separation and kind of even a a a a transformation of that ideology. And so they try to pit it as a religious war, but it's not. If we talk about theology, Judaism and Islam, they actually were passed along down, the let's say the history of two brothers that belong to Abraham, and so we are actually cousins. So we don't have. It's not a religious war. It's and this is from my perspective. It is basically, it came down to one nation promising another nation the land of another nation. And so I personally have been hit by that. My family has been hit by it. My great grandfather was the mayor of Jaffa, which is now called Tel Aviv. Okay, and this was back in the 30s. Currency. You take a look at the Palestinian currency. There's a piece of paper or a coin that says Palestine on there. That no longer exists. So it's about land, and it's and as you know from the history of mankind, any oppressive regime that stands up for an apartheid, because Israel is an apartheid state. There's a big wall there, and there's a lot of checkpoints. There's a lot of crazy things going on with settlements. They're in violation of hundreds of international codes for illegal expansions of settlements, and just how things are happening there. If you're not there and you don't really see both sides, then you don't understand how tragic it is. We can get into the details, and the devil's in the details, but what I do believe is that everybody needs to live in peace and dignity, however that may be. And this is what I stand by. So the birthright to go back to a land you were not born there, and maybe your ancestry was not there, really hurts, because you have people who've been displaced, Palestinians who've been displaced, and generations who are not allowed to go back. So this is also something worth pondering upon, that the indigenous people who actually were turned to be refugees are not given this opportunity to go back to visit their land. And Dave, I don't know, David, were you born there?
No.
Yeah.
No, he's born
Was
in
your
Jersey.
father born there?
Nope.
Okay. So it really comes down to that. And and it's fine. Everybody has the right to exist. Everybody has the right to live in dignity and honor. Everybody has the right to really hold on to their identity. And again, I'd like to emphasize, Palestinians are not only Muslims. Palestinians are not only Christians. You even have Arab Palestinians who are Jewish, who haven't converted and still live in that area.
Yeah, no, that's really interesting. So before David chimes in, I just want to make sure we're on the same page. So my understanding is in the Bible, or I guess the Torah, Pentateuch, the first 5 chapters, right? So it basically states that Abraham through Isaac through Jacob, right? So the firstborn son is going to receive, this nation and create all posterity and all the great things that comes after that will come out of this person. But who is this? Isaac has a baby with Hagar and has a baby with the mistress first, right? And that baby is Ishmael. And Ishmael creates the Ishmaelites, which now the Muslims come out of the Ishmaelites. But they say, yeah, he was the firstborn, but he was not the chosen one from God. And so am I right in that assessment, David?
I am not so currently read on my Genesis that I can get down.
He's like, actually, I'm not even Jewish anymore. So I can help you.
It sounds like you're right. It sounds like you're right on. It is. It's such a intense topic. If Jared Kushner couldn't solve this problem, I don't know who can.
Hey, but he got a lot of high praise over there, though. Actually, a lot of people liked him because allegedly he created unities amongst people that they never thought it would even make sense strategically.
That was just one of my favorite headlines I've ever read. Jared Kushner taxed with peace in the Middle East.
In the Middle East,
yeah. I mean, you don't know what that was all about, David.
No, listen. I mean,
what do you say to all of that, David?
I mean, I think it's important, first of all, to understand that not all Jews and Muslims have drawn this line in the sand. And not all Jews are Zionists who believe that we have a right to that land. And yeah, I went on a trip called Birthright, but that doesn't necessarily mean I believe I have a birthright to that land. I mean, who in their 20s wouldn't take a free week-long trip when offered? Right? So, I mean, I did spend about a month in Israel, and most of that was with not on Birthright, but with friends, and some of my closest friends are Israeli, and they're like family to me, and so I hear all sides of this conversation, and believe me, I empathize with all sides of this. I mean, on one point, who has claim to any land, right? So, if you talk to people, we're like, how far back are we going to go? Okay, were Jews the original ones? They're pre-Roman, and then the Romans come, and then was there a war between then the Christianity came to the Romans. Then you hear about the Crusades. That's between Christians and Muslims over Jerusalem, not between Jews and Muslims over Jerusalem. So you have this land that's been fought over by everybody. I know a guy who's Baha'i going there on a pilgrimage next month. Wow. So you have a lot of faiths that stake claim to this land. And in the end of the day, how far back are we going to go? Because there are a lot of people who have been displaced out of this land. The crazy part is that this country, this piece of land we're fighting over, can fit inside of Lake Michigan. I mean, this is a small plot of land. I mean, I'm a culturally, I guess you could say I'm a culturally religious person more than God-fearing religious person. But that's where this argument comes. It's coming down to, it's not about the land's resources. It's about the land's meaning to these groups. And, I, as a Jew, I empathize completely, because I believe you said, Mo, that your grandfather came. Well, my grandfather came to America also because he was Jewish and being displaced out of his land in Russia. We were Bolsheviks, and we got pushed out after the revolution by the Bolsheviks. And my grandfather had stories of guns being held to his head, saying, "Are you Jewish? Are you Jewish? Prove you're not Jewish." They had to bribe and lie and sneak their way out of that country. And so my family also came here to escape persecution. And the story of the current story. So of course I empathize with anybody who's been uprooted, and damn glad I was uprooted because I don't want to be Russian right now, but I of course understand that coming from a family that's also landed here to escape something, and the story of current Israel is so tragic because you're right, Mo. I mean, you do have a country that was given to a land that was given to a group of people by another group of people that had no ownership to that land at all. Of course, that's when you look at it that way, that's completely fucked, And then when you look at it from the Jewish perspective, it was like, well, we just literally were like we were nearly just completely exterminated as a people, and after prior to this story, you have a group of people that was literally like the most horrendous things in modern history were done to this group of people, like experiments that are from the most twisted fucking movie you could possibly imagine. Like no one can imagine these experiments so twisted and these deaths so cruel. So like we had just gotten out of this tragedy. Does that give us rights over anything? I mean, no, but you also you have all these people that their countries let them down. Their countries let them be taken to get. Like how do you go back to your old house when you were just released from a concentration camp? How do you go back to your old house on your old block where all your neighbors stood by? Or voted for the guy who let that happen.
Right.
So you have this impossible scenario, like this scenario that no one could have dreamed up. Was the answer to go and obviously go Old Testament like we say in Passover every year, next year in Jerusalem. That's been said for forever. Jerusalem has always been the beacon, so
It's the Holy Land.
And that's it comes down to religion. In the end of the day, so in the end of the day, I don't think, and look at what Americans have done to look at what every country has done to the indigenous peoples, is what we did to the Native Americans any different than what Jews did to these Palestinians? It's this like where it's this whole question of who has a right over anything. It's the earth, it's world. These are imaginary borders that have been set by people long before we were ever born, and we're slaughtering each other over it. And I think in the end of the day, I don't think anyone has any rights to anything. And what even in our current conversations, we talk about Bill of Rights all the time in today's political climate. Like I think rights are kind of whatever rights you were born with, you got to fight for. I don't think they're just yours, and but in the end of the day, I mean, it comes down to just that double-edged sword of religion, where religion is gonna and Dimari, we've talked about this, but I think religion can be the most beautiful thing in the world. And it can give people real meaning and real purpose in the world. And religion can be a literal savior for people. No, and I think all religions preach the same thing at the core. There's no bad religion. There's extremists who will, twist the message to fit their agenda. But there's no all religions in the end of the day are preaching, essentially just be good to each other. Just treat other people how you want to be treated and just be good to each other, and we're all good. If you don't want people to be a dick to you, don't be a dick to other people. That's kind of the core message of just about all of it, and even to the point where it's just like it's all like you were saying, like did Islam branch off of Judaism? Who cares? I mean, it's like however religion spread, it all however everyone came up with this idea of a single God and whatnot, and we're all promising different things if you live a good life and whatnot. But at the end of the day, it's giving you a kind of a playbook, and some people that playbook is really important. And some people I think it's possible to find morals and ethics without religion also. You know, you don't think you need religion to live a moral or ethical life, but I think it provides a framework for a lot of people, and religion can save a lot of people. And when it's used purely, it's a beautiful thing. But religion can also
So
be
one
a
thing
really
that
twisted, evil fucking vehicle for some really fucked up, you know, as a really fucked up justification for really horrendous actions. And
yeah.
that's
So
when it
one thing
becomes
you
a problem.
said there, David, though, that was interesting, and you said a lot of words that some people may or may not know, but you mentioned like uh Zionists, and you said not all Jews are Zionists, right? And I think that's really really important to understand what you mean there. So could you just unpack that a little bit and then
My
let Mo jump in?
understanding is that the belief that, you know, we have a right to this. So this is our birthright. That's literally our birthright. You know, and that this is our, you know, and not all Jews believe that is my point. You know, not all Jews believe that. You
Okay.
know, and I don't think you need, because ultimately, like, if God's as powerful as we claim him to be, or him or her to be, you know, if God's as powerful as God is, do you need to be in this building that we made for him to hear you? Is he only listening if you're on this little plot of land that can fit inside of Lake Michigan?
Right.
Is he, if you're not in that little
Right.
plot of land, is he gone? You know, like we should have more faith in our God than that. You, anywhere in the world, you can,
Right.
your God will hear you. You know, so I think we, as people, I think we rely too much on the small things, and, you know, the bigger picture of religion is like, if God's that powerful, then what are we worried about? You know, then you don't, then you can go, just, you don't have to go to church. You can pray at home, and he'll hear you. You know, you know,
Yeah.
it's we made the church. You know,
Yeah.
so I mean, I don't know.
Yeah.
So
No, I mean we are the church. That's the whole point of Jesus. But what do you have to say, Mo?
Yeah, and you know, also
Right.
people weaponize
Yeah.
religion to control people. That's another big one. Uh, it's also you know, a mechanism of control, and you know, a lot of it, you know, a lot of the fear mongering that happens from extremists who misinterpret, you know, the scripture, is why some people, you know, they fall into line and kind of, you know, you know, they have that blind faith. It's because, yeah, I believe in this because the repercussions are, you know, you start thinking about, oh, you know, I don't want to be burning in hell. I don't want my flesh to like be burned off my bones and then regenerated again, so I can be basically, you know, tortured all over again. I just don't understand part of any religion. But that's another topic. I think we're running out of time, aren't we?
No, we got a little bit more time, but one thing, since we're just on this topic, and then I want to skate on this one. But you mentioned that there were like all of these, you know, codes and stuff that go against the, I guess, what the Geneva Convention or the United Nations codes that happened before. And I've noticed this, and I thought it was like pretty interesting because, like, you know, if I mean, Israel has like the best technology in the world on so many levels, right? On things that like I'm sure we don't even know exist that could literally just kill us all if they wanted to, or could really help us
it's
all in the
true.
same way.
Well, it's
We
U.S.
pay
Sure,
for
sponsored
it.
as
yeah,
We pay
well.
for it.
You know,
Sure.
for sure.
on average, you know, we get about $4 billion of our taxpayer money getting
That we know
sent
about.
That we know
annually
about.
there,
Yeah.
Can
and
I
Yeah.
that's being managed
can I say one more thing though?
by the
Just one
APEC.
kind of like post thought.
Yeah, and I just wanted to ask this question though, and then escape. But yeah,
Yeah.
go ahead.
I mean, I don't want to speak for any Israelis because I'm not Israeli, but I've got Israel, you know, friends in Israel and whatnot. And you know, one impression that I have is that similar to our country, I mean, you have, not everyone in Israel wants this fight, you know, and not everyone in
Okay.
Israel is unwilling to compromise. And not everyone in Israel even wants to be living under the Torah law, like religious, like Israel is a Jewish country, you know, like the trains shut down on Saturday, you know, on Friday night, you
On
know, at
Sabbath, yeah.
sundown. come back on after sundown on Saturday. You know that like you have you can't go get bacon in Israel. You know what I mean? Like so.
Yeah.
Not everyone there wants this fight and wants to be living this way. You do have a country that was started a few generations ago with a modern population now, and a lot of them are very progressive. And like a lot of people in this world, you can't judge the people of a country by the actions of their leaders. Just like I don't want to be judged by the actions as an American by the actions of our leaders. Like so there. It's important when we're talking about this conflict to recognize that Israelis aren't to blame because Israelis weren't alive when this whole fight started. The modern Israelis weren't here, and they're not the ones that started this. And that I think that's important to just kind of clarify that it's not a it's a governmental thing. It's not just the people.
Yeah, no, and I think it goes back to what you said even earlier in the conversation about, we have a black and white system for a gray world. Like, I love that. And I think that fits perfectly. But, one of the things that Mo said in the conversation, and I've watched it myself, and I'm like, bro, this is crazy. Like, I mean, you have people, just like in America, not everyone shares American values, right? So we have to have a vetting process before we just blindly allow people into the country that may not be here to help us and benefit us overall as a population. So obviously, new nation, tricky how they even became this nation there. They have to protect themselves, and it's pretty small to your point, and they're surrounded by a lot of people that don't necessarily want them there in the middle. So during this process, they've been able to really create some just unbelievably sci-fi, like dystopic type technology, and some of which they've used, and it seems like nothing happens. There are no repercussions from the United Nations, and I'm just curious, like, what are your thoughts on that, and why do you think that they're allowed to kind of operate with really no repercussions? It seems.
What are my thoughts on that?
Yeah.
Well, I think the answer to that is pretty.
Yeah,
easy.
I mean, I can't.
It's they have the foreign backing of the United Nations and players like the United States.
Exactly,
and stuff
there
that
are one
not
ally.
going to hold them accountable because they agree with the government or the regime that's in place and what their stance is because they're aligned. They're foreign powers that are aligned in that regard. So. And I think it also makes it complicated, and I'd be interesting to hear what Mo says, the involvement of Hezbollah in Palestine, because they, from what I understand, and I may be wrong about this, not the most well-versed in this topic, but I do know that Hezbollah has, to some degree of control in Palestine, and they do use, they kind of continue the conflict to their aims. And so I'm curious. I don't know. We lost Mo, it seems like, but be curious to hear what he thinks about that, having had family that lives there and all that. But David, yeah, I mean, to answer Dimari's question, what do you think?
I mean, end of the day, I mean, they are our biggest ally in that region of the world, right? So we're going to, like, if you have, we've been kind of at war with a lot of their neighbors also, so in that situation, like, you're gonna let your buddy you're gonna look the other way when something's happened, and there's just not everything, and it would be naive for us to assume that everything in warfare anywhere is being presented to the public what's going on. I think I think there's a whole lot of stuff in this world that don't make the papers, a lot I think there's a lot of looking the other way and a lot of and then like we said, like money, like look at Saudi Arabia, like look how we're looking the other way after the Khashoggi murder, and now we're going and fist bumping and making deals over oil and stuff. So end of the day, ethics is going to take a back seat to money, like just like football. Like in the end of the day, money is there to be made. The bigger the bigger picture of an ally in a certain region, is going to be the bigger picture, the more important thing, and I'm just a potter in the Hudson Valley. I don't know what's going on in Washington, but it seems to me, there's if I think about every decision I make as a small business owner, do I discuss every one of those decisions with my customers and with the public?
Right.
No, there's a lot of decisions I just make, a lot of deals I just make, and it keeps business going, and the customers don't know anything about what I'm doing to keep the business running, right? And I mean, if we think about it, technically, really, a government's a huge business at the end of the day, right? So it's, they're going to pick and choose what we get to know about. Just like any little restaurant or any little mom and pop shop or any larger corporation or any, not every meeting happens with open doors, and so who the hell is to know? And there's no money being passed around between governments. Not even Tesla's passing around the kind of money that our governments are passing around, right? So it's end of the day, they're not going to tell us what the hell is going on. They're just going to say, we're your elected officials. You voted for us, so just trust us.
Right. Yeah, and that's really gotten us far. But let's shift gears, man. You talked about being a potter, bro. I don't know. Oh, well, I know did your first pottery class with me, right? Was that your first?
Yeah, it was my first. But that cup you're drinking out of, is that one of your original pieces?
That's a little cup I picked up in Cyprus. From a little
cool.
From
I
a
really
pot
like
of Amira. I meant Amira.
It's awesome,
dude. He's got to me the best cups. I like all of David's functional work. They're super light. Are you still doing the super light stuff now?
I mean, when it calls for it, what I tell my students is a light pot versus a heavy pot is like a fast song versus a slow song. There's a time and a place for everything. You know what I mean?
Okay. Well, I like the light cups because they're unbelievably light. How is this light, bro? And it's functional and it's great. And I still have my goblets at home, which I very much love. So, you do I know you do hand building and you do wheel throwing, but just educate our listeners on this whole pottery thing. This whole and I know you were inspired by the movie Ghost, right? That's what got you.
No, the pottery world is a pretty amazing world. It's the kind of world that everybody knows something about and everybody's been exposed to without you really without your attention being drawn to it. But if you think about it, so pottery is a vessel. So the word ceramic means fired clay. So a potter is somebody working with clay, which is a layer of earth, right? And ceramic, the word ceramic means fired clay. So clay that's been fired in a kiln to a high temperature. And it's turned that clay essentially back into stone, which is what clay starts at, stone that corrodes over thousands of years. And a pot is a vessel. So all pots are ceramic, but not all ceramic is pots, right? So I can sculpt, I can make a sculpture out of clay, and I could fire it, and that's a ceramic sculpture, but it's not pottery, right? And ceramics, people, everything in our modern civilization is owed to this craft. We live in brick houses. Bricks are clay. Bricks are ceramic. Before fired clay, before the invention of ceramic, 40,000 years ago or longer, we could roast our food or we could eat it raw. But the invention of the clay vessel made us be able to cook food and make things like porridge, which is a staple in every culture, or soups, or we could just have, it would just be the culinary arts were born thanks to ceramic. Somebody made some porridge once and they left it out for too long and it turned to beer and alcohol was born. So before fired clay, before ceramics, we didn't have alcohol. All right. Farming was revolutionized by ceramics. It's not just eating. It's not just plates and mugs and vases. It's like our sewer systems were made from ceramic pipes thrown on the potter's wheel. Indoor plumbing, indoor heating, that's all born from the ceramic process. The first spark plugs for electricity were made out of ceramic. Were made on the caps on top of our electric poles that keep the electricity grounded. Traditionally ceramic. So it has an industrial root. This craft has industrial roots, and our whole modern civilization is kind of owed to this process of turning clay from the ground into this fired substance that's a great insulator and this hard non-porous material that's very strong and can be formed. It's very malleable when it's before it's fired. It can be formed into literally anything. So we got to think bigger than just the stuff we eat out of and drink out of. Ceramics, like, food, alcohol, our homes, everything in modern civilization is owed to this craft. And still, you don't realize how much of your house is built out of fired clay, from the tiles on your wall, the toilet you sit on, the sink you wash your hands in, the bricks your house are made out of, the pipes underneath your house. I mean, there's just fired clay freaking everywhere, man. And it's just being applied to all these different things. And within this whole world of forming clay and firing clay, you have kind of two schools of craft. You have wheel-thrown pottery and hand-built pottery. Hand-built pottery is the OG pottery. It's forming clay. Clay, the thing that makes clay is it holds its form. So it has what we call plasticity. You take a ball of clay, you pinch it, it holds the pinch. You take a ball of mud and you pinch it, it just falls apart. And then we can dry it and turn it back into stone after we apply heat. So hand-built pottery is the original form of pottery. People would just be down at the riverbank and they'd be like, oh, the mud is different, and they would just be playing with it. And then like 20,000 years ago or so, in Mesopotamia or Egypt, depending on which, archaeologist you talk to, someone invented the wheel. And the wheel predated the wheel. So the potter's wheel, which automated the hand-building process. So when I make a pinch pot, I take a ball of clay, I'm hand building a ball, and I pinch and I pinch and I pinch and I pinch all around this ball of clay, and I work my hand up and a bowl starts to form. And then somebody realized if they spin a wheel fast enough, they could pinch once and lift their arm and form a pot in about a fraction of the time. And the potter's wheel predated the wagon wheel. So the idea of a round wheel on a spindle to spin continuously, that was invented by potters. And then eventually somebody was like, if we took one and turned it the other way, we could put like a cart on it and push it around like a wheelbarrow. So like we're talking ancient crafts. We're talking like pre anything pre any comfort that we enjoy, right? And so the craft of, hand building clay, I equate that a lot to like carpentry. You're working with a soft material rather than a hard wood. Throwing on the wheel, that's like playing an instrument. That's what I do. That's primarily what I do is I wheel throw pottery. I turn pots on the potter's wheel. And that's like playing an instrument. It's all about building muscle memory in your body, understanding the theory behind that language.
Yeah.
And then putting rhythm and timing and tempo into your motions to get the results that you want. So literally, potter, like I train as a potter the same exact way any musician trains at their instrument. To me, it's just physical music, tangible music, not auditory.
Hey, you know what I just thought about as a person, and you've used the wheel before too, and I have too. David was actually one of my first instructors, so I'm really good at it. No, I'm not, but I'm better than a lot of people, I'm sure. But so you say you can't use your hands and your feet at the same time. That's incorrect.
Well, no.
I've literally seen you on the old school potter where you actually have to kick it, the actual kick wheel.
That's one
at the same time. So somebody's lying.
To go to. I can drive the car too and press the pedal and steer the wheel, but I can't.
David,
you just can't throw a punch into it.
David, something you talked about.
There, it's just not going to happen.
It's not going to happen. What are you going to say, Rizzo?
Something you talked about with the ancient kind of aspect to it. I'm curious if you know about this, but one of the oldest, if not the oldest, ancient archaeological site in the world is Göbekli Tepe. It's about like 9 to 10,000 years old or something like that. Actually, no, sorry, 9 to 10,000 BCE. So it's like 12,000 years old. And when they excavated it, I think they're still excavating it, but like when they got inside there, they found funerary casks, because it's an ancient funerary site that like spans acres and acres of like arranged stones and all that. But they found funerary casks, and when they opened them, they found drinking vessels. Mm. And this kind of gets into the study or the research behind like psychedelics and their involvement in the formation of civilization and culture and just everything. And they actually took some of the vessels in that those casks. They tested them. They archaeopotany or something like that tested them, and they found ergot, which is the fungus that is the precursor to LSD. And so the theory is that they would make, it was called graveyard brew beer.
I want some.
Because ergot grows on rye naturally, and when crops like have ergot infestation, it is toxic and can kill people. But the idea is that they used to drink this graveyard brew a beer that was spiked with ergot or some sort of psychoactive compound, and they would commune with the dead, and that was kind of where these mysteries were born, was in that ancient site and ancient cultural traditions.
100%, yeah. I mean, 100% believe
everything
that.
You said about
first of all, how glad are you that we were born in like a time when we're not like still testing the fruits and vegetables and seeing what's like poisonous and what's not? Like,
yeah. How did they figure this out? How many people had to die before they figured out? Oh, you can eat that mushroom, but not this one.
Now you can't eat the mushrooms from the factories, bro. So we're kind of just history repeating
somebody
itself.
Like stuck with
you guys
it,
trust
and they were
Dole?
just like, yeah, you can smoke it, you can boil it, but don't eat it.
You kept
going after someone did. So we really to figure it out.
No, that's true. Yeah.
No, I mean that's kind of the craziest.
The benefactors of tens of thousands of years of evolution.
Yeah,
and
we are.
Many cavemen dying to figure out that you can ingest psychedelic compounds.
Yeah, I would not want to be the guinea pig on all the mushrooms out there. But the thing, like the kind of the most romantic idea behind ceramics is that it's a material that doesn't biodegrade or disintegrate. So most of what we know about ancient culture is through ceramics that have stood the test of time. And you have a material that doesn't just disintegrate over time. Like, as long as that pot doesn't break, as long as that piece doesn't break, it's not going anywhere forever. And, or get lost, And even if it does break, we learn a lot about the shards, from the shards. But not just like Egypt, like cultures like Rome and Greece and Egypt who would like literally paint stories on their pots and like literally tell us what was going on in their day to day. Like literally, like the Greeks and Romans are like, so and so won this election, and we know about that because they painted it onto a pot, and but not just things like that, but what they were smoking, what they were tripping on, what they were drinking, what they were eating. Like, with everything we know about this culture is because the pots have survived, and they found these burial sites, and they found these fire pits, and they're literally like, yo, this is weed ash in here. They were smoking weed, or they find a bottle. They just found, like, just recently they found an old shipwreck, and there was all these gin bottles, ceramic bottles filled with gin, and the gin was still good.
Yeah.
So it's like, it's just most of what we know about the world and about our like human history is through ceramic, just this material that's kind of changed the course of human evolution. It's amazing. And it's like, it's kind of an honor to be a part of
be a
part of that timeline,
Yeah.
No, this is like a meme. Like, it's like, tell me you love ceramics without telling me you love ceramics. He just gave I love that. That was like a 20-minute thing. I mean, I've learned so much, even just in this quick conversation, but every time I talk to you about ceramics, like, he's got more information, more information.
To get me started,
he's a student of this stuff.
Keep going.
Well, I would be remiss if like we just went through this whole geopolitical thing and then we didn't get to talk about something fun. I mean, they talked about UFC and NFL, and I'm like, dude, we don't care about that. Like, let's talk pots, bro.
I like pots. You hear me talking about my nerd stuff.
Going back to like, I know Mo's not here anymore, but going back to like Israel. When I was in Israel, I went to a mountain, Mount Masada, in the desert, right?
Mm.
And at the top of this mountain, there was an old Roman fort ruins, you know, and they had ceramic pots up there and shards up there, you know, and thousands of years old. They had indoor. They have the ruins of indoor plumbing, and they had ceramic aqueducts getting the water out to those mountains in the desert, you know. But they had indoor plumbing and bathhouses
crazy, right?
on top of a desert mountain. This is the ancient Roman. You know, and it's fucking nuts, man. That's like mind blowing, you know. And
it may have not been a desert.
It's nuts, and it's just kind of crazy to see. Like, you can study the history of like human civilization through ceramics, and when you see it, it's a roller coaster, man. Because like they had indoor plumbing, with the ancient Romans, and then flash way forward. You got the Black Plague happening in Europe because they were shitting in just pots in their bedrooms and dumping it out the window, and everybody was getting dysentery and dying from the Black Plague and shit, you know? So it's a roller coaster, man. We find technology and we lose it.
This is, I know it has been misplaced, but some people are finding it again. This has been great. We are now at the end. If the people are looking for you, man, where can they find you? In Newburgh.
Come check out the shop. Give the people the name of the shop.
Newburgh Pottery in downtown Newburgh, New York, in the Hudson Valley. On Instagram, the Newburgh Pottery. Our website, thenewburghpottery.com. Find a little short film I did on YouTube. Just look for the Newburgh Pottery. It's just, I'm all about the Newburgh and I'm all about the pottery, you know.
Love it, man. Rizzo, the people are looking for you, man. Where can they find you?
You can find me at Rizzo Fields or RizzoFields.com.
Awesome. And you can find me at judaclan.com, and you can find us at SideXSidePodcast.com or SideXSidePod on Instagram. Until we meet again next week. Peace. I'm Dimari.
And I'm Brandon. Before the show begins, please subscribe, like, comment, and share with a friend.
This allows us to increase our visibility on the platforms where you listen and watch so we can continue to bring you quality content each week. Help us grow, and we can grow together by enlightening minds one question at a time.
Are you a small business owner, young professional, or pre-retiree looking to grow and protect your assets but don't know where to start? With all the noise about stocks, bonds, cryptos, it can be hard to know what steps to take. Let Black Swan Financial Group help you so you can focus on doing what you're good at. Black Swan Financial Group is a telefinancial planning firm operating in select states nationwide. They're here to help you protect, create, and grow your assets. Visit BlackSwanFinancialGroup.com today to get your free consultation. Hey everybody, Brandon and Dimari from Side by Side here. Just want to tell you about one of our newest sponsors, Ease Web Development.
Ease Web Development specializes in building high conversion websites and marketing campaigns that take your business to the next level. They're the easy decision when it comes to marketing.
So check them out now at www.easewebdev.com. That's ease, WEBDEV.com. Now back to the show.